Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now this video is going to be part one of a two-part series where I replace the rear differential on my BMW E60 5 Series. But in this video I want to remove the original differential, remove the original bushes and then replace them for some nice new polybushes. Now the polybushes that I want to install today are these PowerFlex polybushes. Now I've worked with PowerFlex on a number of videos now, and to be honest I really wouldn't install anything else on my car in terms of bushes. It's really not worth the hassle. You know, these PowerFlex polybushes are so much easier to install than the regular rubber bushes, and you know, they last forever and you get the added performance benefit as well. So needless to say, I am going to be installing these on the car. Let's get outside, let's get the car up in the air and let's get cracking. Okay then, so as you can see the car is up in the air and I've already went ahead and removed pretty much the entire exhaust system. Obviously we need to access the prop shaft because that bolts onto the front of the differential, and to access that we need to remove the exhaust heat shield. So it's easier just to remove the entire exhaust system. It just bolts onto the downpipe. It's easier to remove it in one big piece rather than trying to wrestle with the rusty bolts on the center box there. But with the exhaust now dropped out of the way, I can get on and start removing the 8mm screws for the heat shield, and then I should be able to access the rear of the prop shaft then. So then, with the heat shield now removed, here's how we are looking. We now have access to remove the rear differential. So we have these 6 E-Torx bolts on the end of the prop shaft. So first thing I'm going to do is remove all of those, and then I can move on to the drive shaft bolts. Again, there should be 6 of those. You just rotate the wheel with it out of gear and with the handbrake off, should be able to access all of those quite easily. Obviously same on both sides, so let's get all of these removed and then we can start removing the differential itself. So all of these torque bolts require a E12 socket. With an extension, I think. There we go then, that's the prop shaft unbolted from the rear differential. Now it's not just going to fall, obviously you can see it's not falling. There is a kind of like an indent on the prop shaft. You have to get something to lever it away. It kind of the prop shaft kind of sits into the rear diff, so you need to kind of lever it away. I'm hoping that I haven't got to unbolt the centre support bearing to give me that wiggle room to move it away. But anyway, that is all of those bolts removed. I'm going to start on the drive shaft bolts next. There we go then, that's the 2 drive shafts removed from the diff. Now we need to prise away the prop shaft, and then yeah, like I said, it's just the 3 main bolts holding the diff to the rear subframe. Well, as you can see, the prop shaft is now removed from the diff. All I used was a flat bladed screwdriver. Now I did have to unbolt the centre support bearing temporarily. It's just the 2 13mm bolts holding that in place. lowered it down, and it gave me the extra little bit of room to push this forward. And then I've just got it resting on this stool here, just so it doesn't put any pressure on the center support bearing. But yeah, getting there now. It's just a case of, like I said, the 3 main bolts that bolt the diff to the bush, which is in the subframe. So there's one there, one there, and then the main one at the back here. Well, there we go then. The diff is now removed, and that was pretty tricky actually. You know, trying to get it down onto the jack was not the easiest task in the world. And when it came to removing the bolts as well, because obviously the 2 at the front compared to the 1 at the rear is at a different height, it's kind of hard to take the tension off of the bolts to get them out. But yeah, we got there in the end. 2 front bolts removed, the rear one removed. This is now ready for refurbishment. And here is what we are left with on the car then. Let's take a look at the original bushes. To be honest, the original ones don't look too bad. Can't see a massive amount of play in them. That's the front 2. And the rear one here, again, can't see a massive amount of play. But yeah, these are going to get replaced nonetheless. If you are replacing the differential, you'd be crazy not to replace these bushes at the same time. Now then, when it comes to the removal of the bushes, as you can see, I already have one of the front bushes removed. Ideally, you want to have a bush pulling or pressing tool, but you can just make something at home. You can see I've kind of made a DIY bush puller or press, however you want to say it. But essentially it just requires a long bolt that is long enough to go through the bush and then through the same space again. So you're going to need some sort of cup for the bush to go into, and then you're going to need a series of washers. So this is how it goes in the car. So you have the bolt with a washer that pushes against the bush, and then you have this cup which goes against the casting on the rear of the bush. So it will go something like this, and then you essentially need to just put a nut on the end. This is what you're going to tighten, but obviously because the cup is open at the end, we need to stop the nut from going inside. So we've got a couple of washers, and we just tighten that against that, and then as we tighten it, it will essentially just pull the bush through like so. So then this is what the extraction of the bush will look like. As you can see, I'm all set up. I have my cup here which will allow the bush to go into it. I have the bolt with the washer on the end which is big enough to push the bush through, and I have my series of washers and tightening nut on the end of the bolt here. Now I just have an Allen key in the end of the bolt just to stop the bolt itself from turning. So as you can see, the bush should now start to push through. Now obviously it will be fairly tight because the bush is designed to be very tight in the bore of the casting, but yeah, just take your time, just keep checking it periodically, make sure it's coming through nice and symmetrical, and it is. You should start to feel it get very easy, and that is pretty much when the bush has fully came out, and then it should fall out like so. And there we are then, that is the bush removed. And now when it comes to the installation of our new polybushes, it is so much easier. First thing we need to do is just give the bores a good clean up, just to make sure there's no sharp edges in there. I'm just going to give the edges a good clean up as well. And we do have some instructions, so when it comes to the installation, the larger diameter of the new bush fits against the diff, so that's that end, so that means they go in like so. Obviously this end is going to make contact with the differential. Now it says apply some of the supplied grease to the bore and end faces of the bush. Is that the bore of the bush, or is that the bore of the subframe? I think I'm going to apply grease to both, just to make sure it's nice and lubricated. One's ready to go in. Look at how much easier the new ones go in. They're just pushing by hand. And now we have to install these metal sleeves, and these need to be flush with the inner face of the bush. So you can see there's kind of like an indent. This needs to be level with that indent inside of there. So again, I'm going to apply some grease to here so it goes on the inside of the bush. Slide this in. There we are. And as you can see, the rear main bush, the larger one, is now removed. Pretty much the exact same when it comes to the removal. Obviously you'll need a larger cup to retrieve the bushing. But yeah, that is all three now removed. Obviously we've already replaced the front two, just got to do the rear one now. It's pretty much the same. We've got to do is clean up the inside and then push the bush in and apply the grease and everything. And here we are then with all three bushes now installed, ready for the new differential. Okay then guys, that is the original differential bushes removed on my BMW E60 5 Series and replaced with some nice new shiny Powerflex polybush ones. Now do stick around for the next part of this project, where I will be fitting a refurbished differential and then taking it for a test drive and see if I notice any difference. I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you have found it helpful. Please do remember to check out Powerflex. I will leave all of their details down in the description box below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one.